What is happening, everybody? In today's video, we are going to talk about New Year's resolutions. It is that time of the year again, where today, as of this recording, it's December 28th. So, a lot of people are taking this opportunity to look back upon the year, do some reflection, and think about what kind of positive changes they should be making going forward. And in principle, I'm not opposed to this idea. In fact, I think it's a good habit to look back, think about, like, what have I done over the past 365 days? What are some positive changes I could make in my life? What are some things I can do to improve myself? I think this kind of mindset should be encouraged, and if this practice is moving people in the right direction, I'm all for it. But with that said, here are some of the reasons that I think setting New Year's resolutions is a losing strategy. Simply put, there are 365 days in a year. Every single one of these days presents us with the opportunity to look at what we're doing, to think about how we can do things better. There are ample opportunities every single day to improve your life in some way and make positive changes. And I think every single day we should have a commitment to trying to do better. At the end of every single day, we should look back and think to ourselves, what did I do right today? What did I do wrong today? What am I doing to move myself in the right direction? What are some mistakes that I made? How can I avoid making these mistakes the next time around? What are some additional things I can do to take shit to the next level? This kind of reflective process really needs to be done every single day if you want to reach anything close to your full potential in life. And if you're only going through this process one time a year, I think you're only going to reach a very tiny fraction of your fullest potential. Gary Vee, who is he's pretty famous in the self-help motivational community. A very famous entrepreneur. He had a quote on this that I like, where he said, "Waiting miraculously for a calendar to flip to improve your life is silly at is silly at best and pisses me off at worst." I think that's spot on. Why wait for some future day to make some of these beneficial changes? This is one of the sinister things about New Year's resolutions is it sounds like a beneficial habit, but if you think about it, it actually gives a lot of people the excuse to procrastinate and put things off. If it's the end of November, early December, you might be well aware of the fact that you should stop drinking or stop smoking or start exercising more or quit playing video games or really start focusing more on your writing career or whatever it may be. And I think a lot of people use the new year as an excuse to continue failing, to keep engaging in the bad habits, keep making mistakes. Oh, it's the holidays. I'm just December 31st, January 1st. Once that day comes, then I will start making these beneficial changes. Trust me, next year I will stop smoking. Next year I will take my life to the next level. And my question is, why wait? I don't like this idea of being like, oh, a month from now, then I'll get serious and start making these improvements to my life. Why not start doing it today? Why not start tomorrow? Why wait? That's my question. I remember back when I was on Facebook before I deleted my Facebook account, which I think every single one of us should do, by the way. There was this girl who I knew. This was probably maybe 3-4 years ago at this point. She posted this self-deprecating meme where it was like that awkward moment when you said 2017 is going to be your year, and you realize you're in the exact same place you were the last few years. It was something to that effect, like, oh, I set all these bold New Year's resolutions about how I'm going to crush it this year, and then it turns out I'm in the exact same spot that I was, making the same mistakes. I'm still a drunk. I'm still a loser. And she posted it like it was funny. She did like the crying, laughing emoji to go with it, and she was like, haha, isn't this silly, was her sort of mindset. And I remember at the time, I also laughed at it because I was kind of a loser at this point in my life, and I was like, haha, so relatable. I'm such a fucking loser. Like, I'm just drinking and playing video games and shit, and I'm like, oh, that's so relatable. But now I look back at that, and I just think it's fucking sad. Several years of your life have gone by, and you still haven't made these few basic changes that you should be making. What the fuck are you doing with your life? And the worst part is that she's laughing about it like it's some kind of silly joke. I'm sorry, but if you treat your life like it's some kind of pathetic joke to laugh at, that's exactly what it's going to end up being. I think the way you talk about yourself, the way you talk about your work ethic, your habit, your commitment, your discipline, the way you talk and think about yourself really does matter, and it really does affect the way that you actually are in the world. These things really do matter. I'm reading this book right now. It's called Indistractable, where you think just by the title, it's purely about like habits to avoid distraction. But he talks about a lot of other things like living consistent with your values and so forth. And there's a section where he talks about recovering addicts, where this has been researched very extensively. If you give addicts a questionnaire and you ask them questions like, I am powerless to resist cravings of opioids or alcohol, or willpower can help to overcome this addiction. If you basically ask questions oriented towards how empowering a belief system do they have, how capable do they think they are of actually overcoming this addiction, the people who have more empowering belief systems are much more likely statistically to go on to actually overcome the addiction. Whereas the people who have thoughts operating on their brain along the lines of I'm powerless, it's out of my control, eventually I'm going to relapse, I know it's going to happen, it's always happened before, I'm not going to be able to beat this. People who have that sort of self-defeating mindset, they're much more likely to relapse, to become an addict. And I think if we think about New Year's resolutions in a similar way, we see how this girl's meme that she posted is kind of an example of that, where it's like she has this mindset where she's like, oh, I screwed up, I caved, I didn't achieve my New Year's resolution, I'm a fucking loser, this is the kind of person I am, this has been, the pattern that's happened for several years where I set these goals and I end up failing, and it's funny, I'm a loser, and shouldn't we all laugh about it on Facebook? Just openly declaring to the world that, like, you can't stick to goals and you can't follow through with things, I think sets up sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy where, because you think of yourself in that way, it sort of makes it more likely that that's going to happen in the future. And I think what we should do instead is have a more empowering belief system where we're like, okay, I may have fucked up today, but, that doesn't define me. I'm not a failure. There are future opportunities to do it better again. And we should just operate with a much more empowering belief system. Les Brown, he's a motivational speaker. I'm sure every one of us has probably heard of him by now. He had a quote that I like, where he said, if you are casual about life, you will end up a casualty. And this whole mindset of like, oh, I set these resolutions, but I failed, and isn't it funny? Shouldn't we all just laugh about how much of a loser I am? I think that's a good example of that, where she just has this really casual mindset towards like, wouldn't it have been nice to have improved my life? But, here I am, I'm just a fucking loser. I take this shit seriously. It is not funny to me when I fuck up, when I break my discipline, when I make mistakes, when I waste time, when an entire day goes down the fucking toilet. This is no laughing matter to me. And when I do make mistakes like this, I don't hop onto social media. I don't go to Twitter or Facebook to laugh about how much of a loser I am. I take action. I make adjustments. I try to learn from those mistakes. And I try to use them as opportunities to improve myself in the future. It's like, even if today I fucked up, how can I use this problem as an opportunity to do better the next time around? Just laughing about it and being like, it's fucking silly. It pisses me off. And, I think we should all do better than that. I also think that one of the surest ways to consistently fuck up your life and never amount to anything is to know exactly what you should be doing to improve your life, but to consistently not do those things despite repeated opportunities. Just knowing that you should stop drinking or stop smoking, and you just, you have the chance to do it. You fuck up once, and you're like, well, this year's down the toilet. That's like a recipe for living like a loser right there. Now, you might be saying at this point, hang on a sec. These things aren't mutually exclusive. You could improve daily. You could be trying to make these daily adjustments. But at the same time, you could also set New Year's resolutions and have this sort of fun end-of-year, beginning-of-year ritual. And I think that's definitely true to a certain extent. Like, I'm personally really focused on trying to do better every single day, but there are certain things that I do keep track of and look back on at the end of the year. Like, I keep track of how many books I read, how many videos I post, and so forth, and I try to look at these metrics, and I'm like, man, I can really step my fucking game up. Like, really, I only read 25 books this year? I feel like I can do better than that. And I do think there is value in looking at what we accomplished over a year. But at the same time, the fact that we do see these huge spikes in gym memberships in January and in these trends where people are like, I'm going to use the first of the year as my time to really get serious about it, I think it is proof that people are using this ritual as sort of an excuse to put these things off and only do it on that one particular day. I looked up some statistics on what percentage of people follow through with their New Year's resolutions. And according to a Forbes article, we read that, quote, studies have shown that less than 25% of people actually stay committed to their resolutions after just 30 days, ends quote. 25%. So think about it in a different way. 75% of people within the first month of the year have already failed and have already given up on the resolutions that they make. And they're just like that girl on Facebook. She's like, ha ha, oh well, better luck next year. And that's the end of it for them. It's like, well, I had my chance, I set this goal and I failed, and too bad. This is the thing about self-improvement. You are going to fail. You are going to break the discipline. You're going to have those days where you procrastinate and you cave into the laziness, and you're not going to do what you should be doing. This is a part of the process right here. And I think the question that we need to ask ourselves when we do break the discipline, when we do fuck up, is, do I want to wait 357 days to steer myself back on course? Do I want to wait until the next opportunity to set New Year's resolutions and just declare, the rest of this year is kind of lost and better luck next time? Or do I want to wake up tomorrow and be like, today, motherfuckers, today is another opportunity to do it right and attack it and give it everything I have? Do we want to just be like, well, this was my chance and that's it? Or every single day should we be waking up and being like, I may have fucked up yesterday and I may have felt like a fucking loser and I may not have followed through with what I said I was going to do, but today is another chance? I think the answer is pretty obvious. In a way, if you think about it, New Year's resolutions handicap people mentally, because it's set up as this thing where it's like, for this entire year, I have to be 100% consistent and stick to this. And I think, especially if this is such a rare thing for you to make these beneficial changes, that can be such an unrealistic bar that if you cave on one particular occasion, if you do have that one day where you do end up smoking again, or you do end up drinking, or you don't go to the gym when you should, you'll just accept defeat in your head. And you'll be like, well, I broke my resolution. Darn, I guess I'm just a fucking loser. Better luck next year. And then you'll just give up on it. So, I have something similar happen on a daily basis sometimes, where I'll set goals for the day and I'm like, here are the things I want to get done. And if I break the discipline and I start being lazy and I'm nearing the end of the day and it's very clear that I'm not going to be able to accomplish all my goals for the day, something happens in my brain where that sends some sort of signal to my brain where I'm like, well, I guess the day is lost. Better luck tomorrow. And something I try to remind myself of is, no, the day is never lost. Even if I can't accomplish everything I set out to do, I can still do as much as I can. Even if it's 8 p.m. and I've been fucking up and being lazy, I can be like, enough right now, and I can get my shit together. And from that point on, for the rest of the day, I can use the time productively. So even if my goal was to work on a YouTube video for X number of hours, and that ends up not happening, it's like 10 p.m. and I'm going to go to bed soon, I can still put in maybe 2 more hours of work or something. So the day is never lost, and never allow yourself to accept the fact that because you fucked up, because you broke the discipline, you're not going to be able to get the thing done and it's not even worth trying. Watch out for that mindset. The same thing applies to a year. So if it's January 10th, for example, and you set the goal to not smoke, even if you end up caving on January 10th, and you start smoking again, that doesn't define the rest of your year right there. That, I think, is the key thing to understand. I constantly tell myself that your past mistakes, failures, and embarrassments do not define you. And I think the problem with New Year's resolutions is it gives people this totally unrealistic roadmap for what self-improvement should be like, where they're like, I must have 365 days of perfect consistency, all or nothing, and if I cave once, I've failed on my resolution, and that flips a switch in their brain where they're like, the year is lost, better luck next time. And what we need to do is flip that around and be like, maybe today I fucked up, but tomorrow I'm going to try again. And that's the mindset that we should be operating with. So to recap the key points that I made here, I do think it's good that we have a ritual at the end of the year where people do look back upon the year, they do reflect, and they do try to make positive changes. I'm not trying to knock that. If it works for people, good for them. But as we see from the statistics, only about 25% of people after the first month of the year are even still in the running to accomplish their goals. And there are still 11 more months for them to fuck up and break their resolution. So it sets the bar unrealistically high. And it gives people this notion that, like, I need to be perfectly consistent. It's all or nothing. It's binary. When in reality, self-improvement, there are peaks, there are valleys, there are bumps in the road. You fuck up, you make mistakes, but you try to learn from those mistakes going forward. I think every single year doesn't present us with just one opportunity to improve our life, but 365 opportunities. Every single day, you have a chance to do things better, to do things differently, to cut things out of your life, to bring things into your life. Every day we should be committed to doing better, not just one day a year. I also think that New Year's resolutions give people an excuse to procrastinate and put things off. Oh, it's November. Here in a month or so, I'll make these changes. Why wait? Why not start today? Why not start tomorrow? That's the mindset we should have. And the final thing I want to remind people of is that if you break the discipline, if you fail 10 days into the year or whatever it may be, that doesn't define the rest of your year. We're not defined by our mistakes, our failures, our embarrassments. We are if we allow ourselves to be defined by those things, as the research from the addiction literature shows. If you tell yourself that I'm a failure, I can't do this, if I fuck up once, that's the end of it, that does, in a way, become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you have a more empowering belief system where you're like, okay, I fucked up, but I can still make adjustments going forward, then that becomes our reality as well. So I just want to remind us all to have that more empowering belief system and use every single day as the chance to make their life better. Thank you all for watching and listening. I hope you enjoyed this and found value in this. If you want more of this content, feel free to subscribe or not, whatever floats your boat, I guess. Until next time, you guys take care.